right, so now that we have the basics, I would like to continue with step number 3, and that's building the right business model. Because I think that most of you never thought about business model for your business, but you do have a business model. You must have. You know, your business is operating in a certain way. Business model means that there is a way for you to make money out of your business. And if you make a lot or not so much, that's many times depends on what is your business model and is it the right one for you. Now, the thing is that the way that you picked up your business model, probably unconsciously, but the way that you picked it up is you looked how other people in the market that are doing similar to what you're doing are doing. How do they run their business? How do they promote? What kind of products they put out there? What prices? What's the, what goes after what, etc. So if you're a graphic designer, probably what you did is you looked what other graphic designers are doing and doing something very similar as a business model. Maybe what you're designing is different, but as a business model, as a strategy, it's pretty similar. The same if you're a coach or a consultant or a whatever it is. Okay, most of us, that's how it starts. We never think about our business model. Now, a lot of business models you can find in literature. You can find business models in books, you can find business models in courses, in seminars, in universities many times. I mean, business model is something that is very fit for a university to teach. But somehow, nobody ever taught or communicated the business model for an expert. And an expert business is a very specific business, and it has a very specific business model. And there are very successful people that made lots and lots of impact and lots of money being experts, right? What I found out is that they all work with the same business model, exactly the same. It's very, very little variations on that. And from all those experts and gurus that I met in my life and studied with, I never saw one of them teaching it. They keep it very much top secret. And I think that for the first time in December last year, I busted that out. And I put it out. If you've been with us in the Financial Freedom in December, that was the first time and the only time that I ever shared that. But this is important because if you don't know what is the right business model, it will be very hard for you to be successful. And it's not science, it's not rocket science. It's not that you cannot figure it out, but most people never bothered. It took me years to really understand how it works and to simplify it to what I'm going to share with you right now. So basically what I'm sharing with you is something that you cannot find anywhere else. You will not find anybody share this information, not on the internet, not in books, not in courses, everywhere, anywhere. And I'm pretty sure that some of those people that are using it, if they would know that I'm sharing it exactly the way I'm sharing it, they won't be very happy with me. And we're talking about people that are, many of you know their names, in the personal development field, which is more my field, that would be Tony Robbins, for example. In the financial, that will be Robert Kiyosaki. In the relationship, it will be Dr. Phil. For example, in more spiritual stuff, it will be Deepak Chopra. I mean, I can think of a lot of others, but you recognize some of the names? They all work exactly with the same model. And I want to just put it out for you, share with you, and then, hopefully get you started on some of it. And what you want to do is to draw those 5 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's a little bit of theory, if you want. But I think that it's really, really valuable when you understand it. And even if you won't get all of it today, you'll get it during the coming weeks or months when you think about it. So this is all. This is the whole business model of the expert business, if you want. And everybody's following the same, pretty much the same 5 blocks. Okay? Now, the first block is all about content creation. As an expert, your main job is to create content. It really doesn't matter in what shape or form, and we'll talk about a few of the shapes and forms in a moment, but it really doesn't matter what you do, you're a content creator. Okay? I'm not a trainer, I'm not an author. I'm a content creator, that's what I do. When we go to partners, sometimes when we want to create a partnership with someone, and the first thing I'm telling them, it doesn't matter what you need. If it's come to contact, I create that. That's what I do all day. Okay? If it's a video that I just recorded 2 or 3 hours of video in the studio a couple of days ago, if it's a blog post that I'm writing, if it's a training that I'm developing, it really doesn't matter. Those are all content creation, and you all do that also, or at least did that at one point. Okay, this is the first part, and I will go into more details in that in a moment, but what you need to understand is that what when you're starting sharing this content, when you start sharing it with the world, like I would suggest you to do, then you create two things for yourself. One is you're going to create this long word that is called credibility. You have more space, so write it down. Credibility. Okay? You create credibility. The best way to create credibility, or one of the best ways, is to create and deliver lots and lots of valuable content. The more, the better. Now, it creates more than credibility. I just don't have space, so you might want to write it down. It creates expert position. It creates authority. The more valuable content you put out there, doesn't matter in what shape or form, the more credibility, the more expertise you're building, and the more authority, which this is what an expert is the authority on that subject. Does that make sense? Now, if you do it right, that can also generate for you some passive income. Okay? So creating content in certain forms, in the basic form, can generate for you some passive income. This is not the purpose of this blog. Okay? You can do that, and I will show you how, but this is not the purpose. I wouldn't bother. For me, the most important in this part, in this blog, is the credibility. Is that okay so far? Okay, I'm going big picture first, then details in a moment. Then the next part, the next blog, is what I call content delivery. How do you get this content delivered to the biggest audience, if you want, or to the best audience? It's a mechanism that we need to develop, and I will show you how to do that, but it's a mechanism you need to develop that is delivering your content. Now, surprisingly enough, if you will use that the right way, you're going to increase your credibility tenfold. You're going to create a lot more credibility here when you're in this block or in this stage of your expert business. A lot more credibility, a lot more expert position, and a lot more of authority. So this is built on that. And they are going by order. I will talk about it a little bit in a moment, but it's first this, then that. They build on each other. Now, what you create here in this block, you create for yourself a really nice, what we call working income. Okay, this is the income when you're actually getting paid for your time, in a way. It doesn't have to be really for the hour, but you need to be present. Okay, in order to get paid, you need to be present this way or another. This is in this stage. So it's not a lot of passive income, but this is a major working income. All the expert goes through that because that's when they become wealthy, and then they can still create the rest of those. You need that. Okay, you need to make enough money in your business from your expertise. It's not enough to make a living. You need to make more, and that happens here. And only when you have this, only when you have that stage, then we're going to leverage this content. So in the third block, I call it content leverage. How many of you are not familiar with the word leverage? All right, that's too many. Okay. If you have anything that is heavy here, you can pick it up this way, right? It will take a lot of effort. But if you create a lever, okay, a lever, then you can put here some force, but not a lot in order to pick that up. The drawing is not so great. All the physicists are kind of against it. But you understand the principle, right? You need a lot less effort to do it this way than to do it this way. That's leverage. Okay? So what leverage means in business, and that's a word that we use a lot in business, so you better get used to it. Leverage means doing more with less. So you need less resources in order to generate bigger results. That's what leverage actually means. And that's what happens here, and I'll show you how to do that, okay? Content leverage. Now, when you do that, and I know that right now it's just words, but in a moment we'll start putting in what it means. When you start leverage your content, your credibility goes through the sky. So if you see every stage build up what we call an expert position. It's the expert business model. What is most important for you is to keep on building your expert position all the time. All the time. And each one of those stages will deliver more credibility for you, more expert position, more authority. But even more interesting in this part for many of you will be that this is the part where you start enjoying the good life. Because this is where passive income can go through the roof. Only there. You can make a little bit of passive income in the first part, but this is where passive income lives. This is where passive income is meant for that. So you create more credibility, expert position, authority, but you generate a lot more passive income. And those stages goes by order, in most cases, for most experts. I saw some experts that are managed to kind of skip a stage or move it a little bit, but usually that's the right order. Or that's the order that it happens. Okay? Are we okay so far? I will go into details more, but right now, bigger picture. Are we okay with those 3 stages? Okay? Now, what happens is that when you have this set, you can move them to the next phase. So all of those will move into the next box. I don't know if that's the right way to draw it, but just that you understand, all of them are leading to the next box, which I call the X factor. X in a sense of multiplier, right? In Dutch, you also use in math terms X as a multiplier, right? Yeah, you say 7 times 3, it's 7x3, right? That's how we do it also in Hebrew. So that's your multiplier, okay? And this is very, very, very important. Because when you have that, it starts multiplying two things in your business. One is called working income, and the other one is called passive income. That's where money is being multiplied when you include this box. And not a lot of people are using it. Okay? Not a lot of experts know about that. Or maybe they know, but they don't know how to create that. But this is where you learn how to multiply whatever you created. And I will go in a moment and show you what I mean. But that's the multiplier. And only when we have this, what happens right now is that you created tons of credibility, which is growing all the time, and you started creating both working income and passive income. Now you got a lot of money. A lot more money, let's put it this way. Now now you have the basis for a business. So far, you're still a ZZ payer. Here, you can move, if you choose to become a business. And here, in this, is where you become that business. This is where you automate. I'm sorry for my small handwriting, so I'm reading it to you, okay? So that's automate, systemize, and outsource. This is where this whole system becomes a business and not just a practice or a one-man show. Systemizing, automizing, outsource. And I will go now into details so you'll understand exactly what's happening. Okay, so this is content creation, content delivery, content leverage. This is the X factor, which multiply everything that you created before, and this is where you make it into a business by automating, systemizing, and outsource. You need to create content. There are tons of ways to create content. We're going to talk about it in a moment. And then you need to find ways to deliver it to other people. Again, many ways to do it. And then you need to leverage that. I'll get to that in a moment. This is where you sell, really learn how to sell what you're doing. Okay? Until I learned how to sell my value, how to promote it. I know that many people hate the word sale, or they hate sales, or whatever it is, but this is what it is at the end. You can call it any nice word you want to call it, but at the end you need to promote it and to get it that more people will buy it. Is that making sense? But you can only do that when you're build up this. So this is where the sales happen, where you need to learn how to sell. And this is where you need to create a business. We have, just that you understand, this process takes time, and it takes quite a lot of expertise. It's not something that I can teach you in 1 hour or in a whole day. We have a whole program for that, the Business University. Basically, the Business University says this way. First, you need to write a book. It's a content? Is it a good content? Why is it good? Why? Because it creates authority, absolutely. There is nothing better than a book to build up your credibility or authority. That's why we chose to focus on a book. It doesn't have to, but and I will teach you some other ways in a moment, but you will see that every guru that you know has a book. Is that right? Have a look on any person that you know, they have a book. Okay? If they become a guru, they have a book at one point or another. So this is where you create a certain type of content. I said that you can generate passive income because you can generate passive income from a book, right? It's called royalties. It's called royalties, right? So if my book is being sold in the shops or on Amazon for 20 euros, I see 2 euros out of it as a royalty. Okay? This is a book. The problem with royalties is that it's just 10% of the price of the book. So in order to make a lot of money, you need to sell a lot of books. And not a lot of people are selling a lot of books. You don't need to. Because the purpose of the book is to build your expertise. You don't try to make a killing out of it. If you do, that's great. I know some people that made millions out of their books as experts, okay? But not a lot, and not a lot in Holland. Okay? Very few. But that's not the purpose, okay? I sold, 10,000 books, 20,000 books over the years. That's nothing in money-wise. But this builds up expertise and credibility. That's why we have a book. In a moment, I'm going to show you some other ways, but book is the best for credibility. Are we clear? That's why in the Business University, the first module is write your book in 28 days. What we're doing is we're teaching people how to write a book. It's not necessarily in 28 days, but the point is that you create a book. This is, in my opinion, the most important first step, okay, for building up the credibility. After that, you move to the next step. And the next step is deliver this material that is in the book in a much more luxurious way. And one of the best ways to deliver this material is by doing what? Doing what? This. Doing this. Standing on a stage. Any way, shape, or form. It can be seminars, lectures, workshops, or a television show. Right? Dr. Phil didn't make it by filling up amphitheaters with people. He did that by being on TV, on Oprah at the beginning, but now he has his own TV show, right? While Tony Robbins did it first from stage. Actually, he did first as a coach, but when he became really big, that was when he started to do it on a stage. Okay? But you will see that they all have the same thing. They all have first a book and then a stage. Any type of stage, doesn't matter. That's where you really kick the note. And that's when working income becomes very, very significant. Because when you can put 1,000 people in a room, or 10,000, or 50,000, then the income starts multiplying. Is that making sense? Can you see that? Okay? But the problem is that it's not passive. It's not passive. If I want to teach you, or if those of you that are coming to the Master Entrepreneur, or there will be 800 people in the room, but I need to be here 3 days. So that's not passive, you understand? But there's leverage there. There is quite a, that's why I told you at the beginning, when you're an expert, it's disproportional, the income that you make is to the amount of work that you actually do compared to any other business, I think. I mean, when you're going into those numbers, in what business you can stand for 3 days and make a few €100,000? I mean, there's not a lot of businesses like that. Would you agree? Guys, would you agree? Yes. Anybody wants that? Yes. I wasn't there 5 years ago. Okay, it didn't take us a billion of years to get that, and I wasn't starting this way. I shared with you on purpose the fact that I was cleaning up the rooms and cutting the apples, and because some of you are in that stage. How many of you are in that stage? Well, are you willing to project yourself 10 years into the future and see yourself here? But that's what you need to do, because I didn't know anything better. Actually, you know a lot better than me, because I didn't have all this information that you get from us, for example. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the relationship and the connections that you have. And if I could create it, why can't you? So just realize it's a matter of time, and it's a lot about building up this expertise. But you need to do the steps. You need to get this, and then you need to get the stage. And then, when you have that, you take what you have here, what you presented and what you have in your book, for example, and package it as a product. A physical product or a digital product, it doesn't matter. But as a product, because a product can be sold again and again, without you. Right? If you can find a way, and don't tell me that you can't, because there is a way, always, but if you can find a way to package your expertise that people will be willing to pay for the product, then it's all a matter of marketing. It's all a matter of how do I get it to more hands and to more people. Is that making sense? Yes. Now, if you will do it too early, you will struggle like crazy. But if you did that in the right order, then it will work. There is a point in the first session of the Business Bootcamp, people hardly know me, okay? Those are usually when we have 1,100 people, about 1,000 are totally new to us, just for those that never been there. So what we're doing there is that just before the lunch break, I'm mentioning something about my book, and I'm taking about 5 minutes to talk about my book. I'm talking usually about the Dutch version, but it's the same thing. So I'm talking about the book for about 5 minutes, and then what I say is I tell people, if you will take this and the DVD, which is not here, and the CDs, which is not there, I'm going to give you a special deal. And I'm giving a really good deal. So I'm giving it for 75 euros instead of almost 300 euros or whatever it is. And what I tell them, there's only one catch. Remember that? The catch is that you need to buy it, well, in the break, right? I give you the whole lunch break, which is 45 minutes for 1,200 people. And what happens is that usually we have between 200 to 300 people that are buying it. Okay, now this is not passive, right? I needed to stand and sell it. But I need to stand to sell it for 5 minutes, and 300 people buy a package of 75 euros. You do the calculation. Okay, this is not the measure of our income. This is not. We don't even notice that. But it might be interesting for you, right? But I couldn't do that if I don't have the stage, and I couldn't do that if I'm not an expert in the eyes of people. I could scream from here to 10, this is a really great book. My mother thinks it's a great book, you know, you have to buy it. Saskia thinks it's a great book, you have to buy it. But unless I build the expert position before, two Saskias. So until you build up this expert position on a stage, this will be very hard. You see why the order is important. Guys, are you with me? Yes. How many of you are right now really depressed because you think you'll never get there? Some of you look like you. Guys, there is no reason, and I cannot convince you for that. This is only your mindset that stops you from that. Okay? I never thought of having a room this size. Never thought that I could be able even to stand in front of this room. I never saw training in that size. Okay? The biggest trainings I ever saw was trainings that Vered used to give still in Israel, and there were 100 people in the room, and it was huge. I mean, my whole dream, actually, they had the basic training was 100 people, and the advanced training was about 32. I think that was the maximum. And my whole dream for years was to be able to deliver a training for 32 people. That was my goal. That was my goal. And at one point, I achieved it, and I couldn't believe that it's possible for me. Who am I? You know? I was 28 when I started becoming a trainer, so I was very young at that time. And I couldn't believe that it's possible for me. And I think that only when I started to go to the States and saw all those trainings with 2,000, 3,000 people in the room, that I realized, this idiot on stage, well, not an idiot, I mean, this is a very smart person, but still, you know, how smart can you be? You know, if he or she can pull up 2,000 people, there must be a way for me to do that too. So I worked for that, and I worked for years for that. It's not something that happened immediately. The problem that you're watching me right now is you're saying, I'm a ZZPayer, and he is having right now 500 people in the room. But it didn't happen this way, right? It happened from a ZZPayer working with 6 people and 12 people and 40 people and whatever it is. And I really recommend, if you're not mind, Peter and Torsten and Remco, if you can stand up just for a second, and all those others that know me. Ed, where is Ed? I saw Edward somewhere. Edward, are you? Edward is there. Anybody else that was with me at least 10 years ago? Yeah, well, but you saw me still in small groups, right? And yeah, so yeah, you could feel free to come. Just ask them if it's true. Just go to them in the break and just ask them if what I'm saying is true, because they saw me, and I shared with you the story networking event last time that I went to Thorsten House to give this information evening for 18 people, because that was the only way for me to sell the trainings. But it's 10 years later, and you know, we're doing different. And I'm pretty sure that if you will meet me thanks guys, really thank you. But if you will see me 5 years from now, I probably will be in somewhere else. Does that make sense? Yes. But you too, but you need to put this picture in your mind. Let me give you a little tip. In the break, when nobody notices, sneak on stage and just see this room and imagine that this is your room.